Right now on Tech Radio, why Amazon thinks it's the world's largest startup.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1091, looking at the 7 biggest stories of the week, including Amazon's latest round of layoffs. The ICCL goes to Europe, and Nvidia pushes back against the idea of an AI bubble. Plus, Aisling Murray from Beta Festival tells us what to expect at this year's celebration of art and technology.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, the big story, I suppose, that we're looking at this week is Amazon. And they're saying, well, we're one thing and then we're not another. And then you have a job and then you don't have a job. And what's going on?
Okay. This is something that we've seen in tech since post-COVID, has been the move to restructure at scale, because we had massive digital transformation efforts during COVID, massive bumps in sale, and then in the aftermath, holy moly, we've got far too many people for the amount of business that is actually out there anymore. So we've seen massive downsizing from all across big tech. Now, what's interesting with the current round of layoffs from Amazon, it's 14,000 confirmed. There's speculation that it could go up to as high as 30. And a lot of people I hate this. I absolutely hate this. They got fired by email. They got sent around an email basically saying, thank you for your service. Good luck in your future endeavors. And the kind of thing that would drive you absolutely mental. And yet, God love them, to their credit, you see so many people posting on their LinkedIn, thank you so much for the opportunity. I've worked with so many brilliant people in this fantastic organization. Yeah. And it does make my blood boil ever so slightly.
Well, hang on a minute now. Can I just ask you, were those 14,000 fired by email, or was it a case that an email went around saying that 14,000 people were going to be fired?
Actually, there was both.
Okay.
Some people received a sort of a thank you for your service. Everyone received a, by the way, we're downsizing.
That's the one that I saw. That's why I wanted to check with you.
Yeah, a very perky email saying, hey, guess what? We want to act like a startup. Never mind the fact that we're an absolutely huge organization. And you can actually trace it back to an email sent by Andy Jassy last year, where he said that, look, we've got a problem with too many managers. We've got people trying to get projects through that feel like they actually can't get anything done because there's pre-meetings on pre-meetings before meetings. Very slow to actually get decisions made. So what we want to do is reduce these tiers of management, which is fine. I think it's, who was the guy that did Dilbert? Scott Adams. He wrote a thing about, is your job necessary? And he basically looked at it from the perspective of how close are you to the customer? If you're close to your customer or close to the customer, your job has value. The further you get up the chain, the less your job actually retains its value.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a fascinating way to look at things, because there's, if you're a middle manager, what value are you actually adding? It's an interesting question, not one that I necessarily would have an answer for, but that's kind of what Amazon is looking to do. And in Andy Jassy's email, that's kind of the message he wanted to get across, that we want to act more like a startup, which is to say we want a leaner organization where people can make decisions quicker without sort of unnecessary bureaucracy, which sounds fine. I mean, if you want to get rid of tiers of management that have built up over a long period of time, that kind of makes sense. However, what we've been seeing is that a lot of the roles that are being gotten rid of now, they're technical roles. And the reason that we're being given isn't just commercial downsizing. It's also, do you know what? We're going to be able to, by the time we get AI in here, embedded in the organization, we will have too many skilled people. We won't need as many. So this argument that, you're not going to be replaced by AI, you're going to be replaced by somebody who knows how to use AI. Well, in the short term, that really doesn't seem to be happening. It literally seems to be, do you know, yeah, sure, you're going to be replaced by AI. Your workload is going to go on to someone else who can use AI. But there you go. Your job is actually going to vanish.
And that's what I think is important about this Amazon story. I mean, the layoffs is terrible, and it's 14,000 gone. It could be up to 30,000. The fact that they're going to AI, I think, is the important thing we should watch, because the big thing at the moment in the world is that AI is not a bubble. That's what this is what all the stock markets are saying, because they all had their results this week, and some of them did well, some of them didn't do well. But the question is going around in financial circles is like, what is this AI? Is this AI another dot-com bubble? And people think that it is, because the valuations of these companies is just going through the roof. It can't be sustainable. The bubble has to burst at some stage. And I think that this Amazon story with the layoffs because of AI is going to be part of that story.
Okay, so let's look at let's take your idea there and stretch it out a little bit. Okay, so one of the main problems affecting the tech sector overall is talent and a lack of technical talent. It is very hard to find people. Which is why wages are very good in the tech sector if you're a developer. However, if we are getting more people in the labour market coming on stream, because they're being replaced in the large, what we would call the chocolate factories or the big tech organizations, we're going to see more talent on the marketplace, which means that we're going to see wages come down. So AI, the immediate effect will be deflating people's
AI
wages.
Is improving. Yeah. They're not different. They're not directly connected, all right? Because what you're saying is because they're laying people off means there's more of a call for AI, okay? So look, even if you had 1 million, 2 million, 10 million people that were laid off in tech because of AI, that's still not going to affect the overall scheme of things. What I'm talking about is the way it looks, the optics of it, okay? So they're saying that the AI is a bubble, it's going to burst. Amazon are laying off people because of AI. It's all negative stories around AI. Yeah. That's kind of what's in my head.
Well, there's two things to that. One of which is those who got the email saying you've been let go. Yeah. They're not being let go, right? They've not been told to, clear out their locker or whatever, or given a legal box and kick out the door. Like Amazon did say, you've got 90 days to reapply to the company and see if we find something for you. Yeah. Now, where that something might be, that's interesting. It's an interesting question. I don't have an answer for it, but I think that's interesting that people are being given the option to reapply within the organization. So does that mean that, okay, certain departments are going to be hit harder than others? Or look, we'll take you back on in a similar role designed specifically with an AI component so we can pay you less.
Okay. Well, so basically what they're saying is, look, your position has gone, but if you wish to remain with the company in another role, you've got X amount of time to be able to do that.
Yeah, you got 90 days.
Okay. Well, that's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah. I'm just wondering, I'm actually not as up to speed as I probably should be with letting people go, but I know you would have to give a minimum 30 days notice to people. Minimum. However, there we go. That's Amazon layoffs, and the email is, as you say, quite interesting. How they were all, oh, what a great team, and we love all the effort that you put in, and but we're letting a load of people go, and it's because of AI. Anyways, moving on from Amazon, they're kind of related to Amazon. They were top of our news last week with the fault with AWS, which knocked out half of the internet. This week, another major tech company has had a problem.
Yeah, and this is interesting. We talked about the infrastructure of the internet being reliant on a very small number of companies. And if anything goes wrong with them, vast swathe of the internet are just going to become inoperable, and we are entirely beholden to the skills of their tech department, of their tech support people. This week we got to find out about Microsoft. Now, Microsoft actually had a little bit of a good week, bad week on this, because they had a results announcement, and they're now a $4 trillion company. I mean, bear in mind that before the AI boom, we had Apple become the first $1 trillion company, and we were like, well, gosh, we're never going to see that again. Now we've got, we'll talk about NVIDIA later, but Microsoft is a $4 trillion company now. Part of it is, the traditional lines of revenue, like its cloud services like Azure, which is where the problem was earlier this week. It's been reported as being limited to basically their content doorway, which means that if you happen to be a user of 365, you had a bad day earlier this week. And content access and things like that were in issues. But in particular, if you were a 365 account holder, you are not in for a good day. And that's particularly worrying, because migrating Office to the cloud was one of Microsoft's big projects. Microsoft Office was de facto the productivity suite. If you want to move it online, that's a huge mindset change. I mean, I still use a local version of Office for exactly this reason.
But this is what they do as part of the 365 package. You do have the local version. I think I'm going to put in inverted commas, genius, because I don't particularly like it as a customer of it, is that they're essentially doing what people have been doing for years. They go, here's the software for free. So take Word and take Excel and take whatever else, but we're going to keep all your files in the cloud.
Yeah.
So now, you have the application, but the content, and it's your content, is in the cloud. It's like having, kind of the Netflix app. That sits on your computer or on your TV or whatever, but all the content is in the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was Microsoft's problem. Anything to do with their own stuff, you're in trouble with. Now, it seems that the outage didn't actually last very long.
Okay.
But from what I could tell, the same level of transparency that AWS was actually pretty good with last week just wasn't there with the Microsoft outage. So I think there's a lesson in that, along with we need greater security and greater competition in cloud and infrastructure.
Do you know what? There's only three things that the phrase used to be that there's only two things certain in life. There's now three things certain in life. One is death, taxes, and the third is that tech will fail.
Oh, yeah.
And anybody who listens to this podcast knows that only too well. This whole thing about the reliance on the cloud is fantastic, all right? And it's very good for access and data. There's a whole load of million good things about it. There's a million bad things about it as well. But in my ideal world, I think the way it should be is that your content, whatever's on the cloud, should be also on your computer. Your computer should be... Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether you'd have that as the HQ or the cloud is the... No, Dropbox doesn't even do that. They all have this thing where the cloud is the proprietary place for storing the content, and then you can opt in if you wish to keep a copy on your own computer. And that's because... and now I would say a lot of the PC people are guilty of this as well. Apple are horrendously bad at it. They're making those SSDs smaller and smaller. So when you're buying a laptop now, it's a 256 gig hard drive. If you've got a lot of data, you need the cloud. So all of a sudden, your data is not on your laptop or on your PC anymore or on your Mac.
Yeah.
You know, and that is a problem if you decide to have a problem with the company, if your credit card suddenly doesn't work and you can't pay your fee. Do you know what I mean? If there's a technical problem, there's all kinds of problems with it. And then the other thing that I find difficult is trying to make a backup of what it is you have on the cloud, just so as you have a cold storage SSD with your data on it that's not connected to the internet, just as a backup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, rant over.
Rant over for now.
For now.
We'll see who goes down next week.
Oh, well. And then also, as you say, we'll get to NVIDIA a little bit more in a few minutes. But Microsoft's valuation through the roof again. A lot of it thanks to OpenAI and the restructured deal with them.
Yeah, OpenAI basically restructuring from a non-profit to a for-profit entity. Of which Microsoft owns 27%. So if you can imagine, like ChatGPT is far and away the most used AI in the world at the moment. Well, I suppose Gemini and Copilot are doing pretty well too, but in terms of mind share...
I think ChatGPT, that's the one everybody is thinking of,
so Microsoft owns just over a quarter of that. Yeah. That's not bad.
And that's put dollars on its bottom line.
Yeah.
Other stories this week. Now, Niamh Sweeney, all right? I don't know what her track record is. I don't know the lady particularly well or whatever. But there is a furore going around about her, all right? Because she was appointed as Ireland's third data commissioner. And there are a load of people who are not happy with this appointment. And it rolls on with more complaints and cases being taken this week.
It continues. Now, we've been very careful in our exploration of this topic because our initial concern was that Niamh Sweeney came from a corporate background and she had experience of working with some of the companies that she would be regulating, working with and lobbying on behalf for. And of course, a lot of those lobbying efforts when it comes to big tech in Europe come down to, we don't like the Digital Services Act. We don't like the Digital Markets Act. We don't think we should be responsible for XYZ. That's just what big tech has been doing for as long as Europe has been trying to regulate it. Last week, we talked about a complaint raised by the ICCL in the process by which she was appointed, right? In particular, that one of the members of the panel going through the applicants worked with big tech, was a lawyer working with big tech solicitor. That was seen as a significant problem. Also, that there was nobody from the civil service or nobody on the panel with technical expertise. These were seen as problematic issues of process, right? And that was where things were last week. This week, the Irish Council for Civil Liberties have escalated their concerns to Europe and said, look, our process was flawed. We have somebody in the position at the moment from a background that would be problematic when it comes to regulation. And we're not happy with how they were appointed. They issued a statement, and I'm just going to read a bit of it here, just verbatim. The result was the appointment of an individual who appears to have no technical, legal or investigative expertise. To the contrary, the appointee was in fact lobbying against a high standard of protection of personal data and the objectives of the DPC in their previous roles. So effectively, look, this person isn't there because they've got, good knowledge of how these things actually work. But we do know that they have a lot of expertise lobbying against the organisation she now works for. You spoke a couple of weeks ago about poacher turned gamekeeper. This is kind of extending that to saying, look, maybe this isn't the right kind of person that should have been appointed in the first place, and appointed with the input of somebody that also would be arguing against the interests of the Irish people in favour of big tech. Now, just to continue that, the director of force within the ICCL is Johnny Ryan, an incredibly experienced and eminent gentleman in the field of data protection. And we should have him on the show, actually.
I think we've had him before, haven't we?
I don't know. I mean,
we're doing this. We're doing this 20 years. I know he's been on the show, but anyway, go on.
So Europe initially said, look, we have no power to intervene in this appointment. We can do nothing. I mean, that you're unhappy, we can, register and appreciate, but we actually can't do anything. To which Johnny Ryan shot back and said, the Commission has taken action against Belgium for exactly this kind of behaviour, and it has taken action at the European Court against Poland for how independent its judiciary are. So it's absolutely the case that the European Commission has the legal responsibility
in one area, but does it have it in the data commissioning area? I can see how it can absolutely get tied up in in bureaucracy and stuff like that. But is there not an assumption being made with this appointment? So I get it, poacher turned gamekeeper, all right? Is it not possible that somebody can be a poacher, and then if gamekeeping turns out to be more profitable for them, that they go, hey, I'm going over to the other side and I am now going to become a gatekeeper, and they excel at that particular role because they know all of the poacher's tricks?
But that door swings in the opposite direction. I mean,
she's hot. Do you think then that she is going to have been a representative for social media like Facebook, etc.? I think it was Facebook specifically, but just in case it's not, people like that, all right? Do you think she's going to get herself into the data commissioner's office and then continue to argue on Facebook's behalf?
That's the concern. That is the concern.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do you know what?
I mean,
I've learned something about myself, Niall, and that is I'm far too trusting of people.
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, you put up with me, for God's sake. I've been bluffing for how long at this stage?
It's a pleasure to put up with you, right? Asterisk, terms and conditions apply. Let's get on to NVIDIA CEO and AI, and is it a bubble? Is it not a bubble? They hit like a huge, we were talking about Microsoft earlier, they hit 4 trillion in value, which is amazing. Yet NVIDIA are doing better.
Yeah, this is the CEO, Jensen Huang, came out and said, we're worth $5 trillion, guys. We're the most valuable company in the world. There is not a bubble. Can you square that circle?
Yeah. Of course it's not a bubble,
Things are going fine. I mean, and you know what the conditions are for a bubble. I mean, eventually, backers, venture capitalists are going to start looking for the money. It's like, okay, you've got a lovely business, but where's the money coming from?
Well, the thing is like, how fast is a stock price going to rise? I mean, that's one of the things that they look at. How quickly will this stock price double? That's one of the first questions anybody investing is, right? ChatGPT launched, 3 years ago or 2 years ago? I can't remember.
2022.
So 3 years ago. Yeah. Okay. So in 3 years, how many times has NVIDIA's stock risen? Has it doubled?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know the answer. And I'm going to scare you if I tell you.
Okay, go on, share.
Their stock has risen 12-fold in the last 3 years.
Wow.
Now, if that's not the definition of a bubble, massive growth and then pop, I don't know what is.
Well, this also speaks to what we were talking about last week in meeting the conditions for a bubble, one of which was an overinvestment in infrastructure. And if this is not an example of that, then what is?
Yeah, exactly.
So, we're hitting bubble territory, I think. And, it will come down to, okay, look, you have had the use of our facilities for X period of time. Where's your revenue? You got bills are coming due. You got to pay. and the money won't be there to do it.
Yeah. I saw a fascinating point from somebody the other day, and what they were pointing out was you've got, the Magnificent Seven, and all of them. So that's like, kind of Facebook and Google and all those, right? All of them except Apple rely on NVIDIA for their AI chips.
Right. Because Apple have their own.
Okay. But everybody else is relying on one company for their chips. All right. And that company is based in Taiwan. All right. And Taiwan is under threat, or there's rumblings of a threat of an attack by China.
Well, as has been forever, really.
Yes, but the rhetoric is cranking up. And I know that Trump went off and he said he had an amazing meeting with, what's the name, Chairman Xi, is it?
Yeah.
In China, and everything's fine. But, that could blow up again in another 2 weeks.
Well, I'm a believer of the golden arches theory of world peace, that our economies are so interconnected that it makes no sense for, global military conflict on the scale that we were all worried about in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
I just firmly believe that, if there is AI is probably holding together the global status quo at the moment, as there is all this rush for precious materials and energy and everything. I think but it has turned the American economy, as Scott Galloway mentioned, into a giant bet on AI. If AI folds, if AI fails, if AI stalls.
Listen, it's not going to fold, it's not going to fail, and I don't think that it's going to stall, but it is definitely going to drop. And if you think about back to the late 90s, early noughties, when we had the dot-com bubble, and there was huge investment in all kinds of crazy things and whatever, and that bubble burst, but things dropped. 30%, maybe 40%, I can't remember, as a result of that, and then recovered. All right. Sure. So I think the same thing is going to happen with AI. And I don't play, I don't really invest, but I do watch the stock markets because it's just part of business news. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love the way when the stock market drops more than 2%. All right. It crashes. It's always very violent words that are used by the people reporting. They go, stock market crashes 5%. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is it. And they always paint it like it's the end of the world. 40% is a huge adjustment and a loss of value for a lot of people. But it's not the end of the world.
The thing about the stock market. I mean, it's not built on facts and logic and figures. It's built on emotion. It's built on vibes. Of course,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A 2% drop and people's hair is on fire and they're running around the place.
I know.
I remember when the big property crash happened, thanks to the wonderful financial instrument of the credit default swap.
Yeah.
And CDOs and whatnot. Do you think anyone could actually explain what these things were?
I still can't explain it. And I've read books and watched movies and all kinds. I still can't explain it.
Yeah,
I get the gist of it, but I couldn't. Yeah,
like if you watch The Big Short, and they really did a good job of it. It's like, okay, we're going to bundle mortgages together that we know are bad, and kind of bet on them to fail. I think. Yeah. And then things just, they reached a critical mass because people who couldn't afford mortgages in the first place were given them. But anyway, so where were we? Oh, yeah, we were talking about the markets.
Yeah, indeed. On our tech podcast.
Our tech podcast.
Let's get back to, anyway, that's NVIDIA up and up, and we'll just wait for it to burst. Other stories this week. Now, I do have a space-related story to close out in a minute, but first, we have online copyright lawsuit, quite a big one, and there was a development this week. This is with Universal Music Group.
Yeah, well, you remember the one of the big AI music generators out there, a service called UDIO, track it down. It's basically you put in your prompts and it'll spit out a piece of music for you.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll go as broad as you like. And of course, the question is, where did this training data come from? Because it sure as hell wasn't plucked out of the air. Exactly the same as what's happening with copyright lawsuits against, was it Perplexity we were talking about a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so,
anyway.
yeah, on the AI side.
Yeah, so we're having the same thing now with music, and Universal Music Group came out with two announcements done separately, but totally interlinked. One was with UDO, where they said, look, we've reached an agreement. We're going to license our music to UDO. They can use it as a training set, as our training data. It's going to be exclusively based on our stuff. And go do what you want. It's starting 2026. They're paying us licensing fee. So this becomes another revenue stream. It's good for us. It's good for artists. And in a separate development, the same Universal Music Group also announced a deal with a company called Stability AI for what they were saying was they were developing next generational professional music creation tools.
Wow,
which
that
means,
trips off the tongue.
Doesn't it just? So does this mean when you're using UDO, you're using a different back end as well as sort of, the brand and the training set? Or are we going to get kind of an AI version of Pro Tools?
Oh, no, I don't think we're going to get an AI version of Pro Tools. But these things that can put music together, it's just stunning. I use them actually quite a bit for if it's somebody's birthday, because I always forget to get a card. and then emailing somebody a card is like, no, that's just, dumb. So what I do is I use Sumo, and I'll put in, some facts about whatever the person. I'll say, write a happy birthday song. And off it goes. It writes a happy birthday song and then puts it to music, and then they sing a song and everything about him. And I send that off by WhatsApp then to the person. Go, hey, happy birthday. I had this recorded for you especially. I mean, I'm quite sure they know it's AI, but they get a giggle out of it, But I just find that it's getting better and better and better every time it does it. It's unbelievable.
You see, you know what? I sat down to use UDO a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, this is great. I'm going to make some music. This is fantastic. I just need to put in what I'm interested in. And I just looked at the screen and went, I haven't a clue. Like, I listen to like different kinds of music, and, I like things that I don't know I want. You listen to something and you're like, that's totally different to what I would have listened to before. And that's brilliant.
Yeah.
When it comes to, stuff that I already know what it sounds like, I'm like, I already know what that sounds like. I've got the best of it at home. Like, why would I try and recreate a version of it through a service like this? Just give me something new.
Anyway, I think that's very interesting that Udio, or I think it's very interesting that Universal Music Group has been able to offer a deal on the copyright, because is that in all of the agreements they have with all of the artists that they represent or work with or whatever. But then on the other hand, the whole point of copyright is that people are able to use a piece of work that somebody else created, but you need to pay a fee in order to do it.
Yeah.
No, interesting. Anyway, listen, last story for today. Wednesday night, load of people there on Reddit and WhatsApp and whatever, and different groups that I'm on. We're all seeing this like huge, big blue ball, is the best way I can describe it, in the sky, and then what looked like a massive big comet, but the comet wasn't coming down to Earth. The comet was like departing from Earth, and they were all going, what the hell is this? It looks like a jellyfish in the sky, hundreds of miles wide. It turns out that actually jellyfish is a great name, because A, that describes what it looked like, and B, the official term for it, if you want to call it that, is a space jellyfish. What is it? It's an Elon Musk rocket, which was traversing across Ireland because he had launched one of his rockets from the States. It had crossed over the Atlantic. It was delivering X amount of Starlink satellite whatever's into orbit. And what we were seeing was the rocket going across Ireland at such a height so that even though the sun had set on the ground, if you like, there was still the sun shining very high into the atmosphere, and that was lighting up the exhaust of the rocket. It was a heck of a sight. If you're able to Google it, just have a look at a photo. I mean, that'd be quite the thing.
Do you know what? Having a look at it, it reminded me of a scene in the latest Superman movie where Superman and Lois Lane are having a deep and meaningful conversation, and in the background there basically is a space jellyfish doing its thing. And I swear to God, like they are virtually identical.
Yeah, quite a phenomenon, and fair play to whoever suggested. They said it's not a rocket taking Jedward back to their home planet. Which, there's a ring of truth to that.
How old is that joke?
Oh, hey, they're the only ones I know. Listen, thanks for keeping us up to date with the news this week now.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
Beta Festival will be taking place starting next weekend, the 7th of November, running until the 23rd at venues across Dublin City. Highlights will include panel discussions and workshops on AI, digital ethics and climate change. To find out more about some of the events lined up, Niall Kitson had a chat with festival founder and director Aisling Murray.
Aisling, it's year 3 of Beta Festival. Congratulations. But first and foremost, bit of a journey to get from there to here, if you will. So what kind of learnings have you been picking up along the way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, in a way, I can't believe that we're at year 3 already. I mean, it's incredibly exciting. But I suppose one of the big things really has been seeing the way that audiences have different activities and events have resonated with them. Obviously we have exhibitions, we have events that take place. But I think one thing that has kind of come back to us a lot is actually that opportunity for gathering. So things like, even the conference on the opening weekend, that opportunity for like-minded people to come together to interrogate different ideas. That's definitely been something that has really resonated with people. And I think, I think now when we first started talking about the festival back in the first year, one of my intentions really in starting the festival was, there's a lot of interesting things that happen in Ireland in the tech sector. There's a lot of really incredible researchers. We also have an absolute incredible group of artists and an incredible storytelling tradition in Ireland, which is a stereotype, but it's a stereotype for a reason. And so actually creating this moment to bring those things together where you really kind of get to interrogate this relationship between art and technology, and be that through digital art, new media art, through critical reflection and accessing the ideas behind how the technologies work. I mean, really just looking at how all of these things come together. So it's been interesting, I think, in the 3 years also just to see the way that our partnerships have kind of grown and developed. The Digital Hub co-founded the festival, so they've been with us from the beginning. They're incredible and they host a lot of our activity. But even supporters, the French Embassy, British Council, they've been very interested and good to us. But now even this year we have IMA have partnered with us on some stuff. So you're kind of seeing different types of organizations be interested in getting involved. And I guess it shows the breadth of activity in this area. And I think it's because people who work in art and technology, they come from so many different backgrounds. People are coming from film, they're coming from visual art, they're coming from tech, they're creative technologists, they're engineers, they're computer scientists. So really kind of creating that moment or anchor for people, those groups of people to come together.
One of the interesting things about adopting so many organisations and so many venues is that the festival has always felt very much a part of the city. So to what extent is it sort of a Dublin event as opposed to a Digital Hub event?
Yeah, it's a good point or a good observation on your part for sure. I mean, it is very much a Dublin festival. I think that again, when thinking about the festival or starting the festival, I was really looking at what was happening in Dublin, nationally, internationally, and it felt like Dublin had a really unique positioning because there are so much of the tech sector based here, because of the research centres that are based here, but like I said, then because of the opportunity with some of the artistic or cultural spaces as well. So we've really kind of made a conscious effort to have things happen in different locations. It has been in the first and second year, I would say primarily up around Dublin 8. But this year we're kind of branching a little bit further afield. We have the relationship with the Irish Museum of Modern Art. We have a relationship with Fire Station Artist Studios, who are going to be doing some workshops. And actually the main thematic exhibition is at Dublin Port this year. So you're really getting much more of a spread across the city. And I think that's definitely, we're year 3 now. I definitely have a lot more ambitions and plans that I would like to see happen. And they definitely involve, looking at taking things more citywide.
So you mentioned there sort of about having a main thematic event there. We've got a theme this year. Yes. So talk us through it.
Yeah. So the theme for this year is, I suppose, exploring this idea of fluidity from everything from water, language, information, quantum states. And I suppose there was a few different places that this idea started for me. I was reflecting on last year's festival, and in a lot of the events and conference last year, this idea around language and the way in which language evolves came up for me. So I was thinking about that a bit. It's also the UN year of quantum. So I was thinking a bit about quantum. And then we have this European project called STARTS, which is stands for Science, Technology and Arts. And it's a project that's driven by the idea that bringing together research, industry and artistic practice can lead to innovation. So for that project over the past year, we were looking specifically at this idea of water, and with 3 artists in residence, one in Galway Port, one in Dublin Port and one in Belfast Port, and they were all interrogating this idea. So kind of rattling around in my brain was like this idea of language, this idea of quantum, this idea of water, and how do these things come together. And I actually ended up rewatching, is it Lo and Behold by Werner Herzog, documentary. And in it, he interviews Ted Nelson, who's one of the pioneers of the internet and the information technology systems. And he gives this example of when he was a child with his grandparents in a boat on a lake, and he ran his hand through the water, and he looks at the way that the water kind of passed through his hand and over his hand. And that basically this experience is something that he's returned to a lot in informing his approach to all of his IT work. And, he coined the term hypertext. And so suddenly this idea, he kind of compares this idea of relationship and interconnectedness with water, and these being a similar thing. And for me, this suddenly started to pull all of these ideas together a little bit, and how, actually fluidity can form a lens for us to explore a lot of these different things, from what we can learn from water to quantum states to also the way that language itself evolves.
Yeah, so we're looking at things that are very difficult to quantify, but clearly have a very strong experiential element to them. Speaking of experiences, what exactly will people be able to do? Because Beta has always had a very strong practical element to it in terms of workshops. So what's on the slate this year?
So we have a load of workshops this year. So we have a 3D scanning and printing workshop with Len Heaney, who's an incredible digital artist, looking at how people can kind of make physical some of their digital work, which is interesting. We have a workshop with Benjamin Gowlon as well, who actually was maybe one of the founding members, or certainly very involved in Data when it first started, which is the Dublin Art and Technology Association, which I think maybe started 20 years ago. He used to be based in Ireland and is coming over for the workshop. And he's also then doing a kind of 2 or 3 day workshop with our partnership with the Fire Station Artist Studios around new obsolescence. We will have some live coding workshops as well. So generating music through code. There's a bunch of different workshops happening. And then I guess aside from the workshops where people can get hands-on and learn some new skills, and they're always for small audiences, so people really do have that opportunity to kind of explore and experience things and learn. A number of our exhibitions are also quite interactive this year as well. So we have an augmented reality piece that'll be up as the Digital Hub by Istvan Laszlo. But then the STARTS project that I mentioned, that'll be at Dublin Port. Those 3 artists' works from Dublin Port, Galway Port and Belfast Port will all be there. And one of those is a virtual reality experience where you can kind of visit the ocean's floor, and it's looking at kind of the similarities between the depths of the ocean and also the kind of black boxness of AI, and as well as exploring the ecosystems around wind farms in the ocean. So a lot going on there. That's Lauren Moffat's work. Then Siobhan MacDonald has a kind of multimedia installation which is exploring the history of Dublin Port. And then Kat Austin, who was the artist who was in residence in Galway, has an interactive installation where she did a series of workshops with the local community, and with their consent created a data set from the workshops that she did with the local community to create this bespoke AI that imagines potential futures of our relationship with the ocean and microplastics. So when you go into the experience, there's five sculptures that as you approach each of them, they're all kind of based around different themes. And as you approach them, it will change what you see and hear in the space based on your proximity to the sculptures. So what you're hearing and what is the video that is on the screen. So super, super interactive and really kind of playing and experimenting with those technologies. And all of those were developed with ADAPT Research Centre's researchers, because they are our research partner for the festival, and they were holding that STARTS project as well.
Speaking of ADAPT, their ethics workshop is back as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So the Ethics Studio will be based up at Digital Hub, and we'll have a number of different exhibits in it, as well as a series of different workshops. Some of those are up on the website already, but some of them will be continuing to announce over the next while. I suppose the beauty of the Ethics Studio is it really allows us to show things that are more work in progress, to dive a little bit deeper into some of the ideas and the research behind some of the pieces. So it's kind of an area where you can, come face to face or kind of sit down with some of the researchers. They may be resident in the space on different days, or, there's different reading, there'll be different workshops, and then some of those kind of in progress exhibits that'll be in the space.
I think that's particularly useful because we hear an awful lot about the use of ethical AI or developers getting a better sense of what ethics are all about. But, it's very often time away from one's sort of main purpose or main pursuit. So making that sort of thinking available to people is super useful and super important.
Totally. And I'll say we on the Sunday of the opening weekend, so Sunday 9th of November, we have a really interesting workshop happening. I think it's from 2 till 4 with AI by Design, who, if you haven't come across them before, I highly recommend checking out their work. They have a bunch of really interesting resources available online. But they're coming over to host a workshop. It is specifically around archival images and better images for AI, but it's going to be digging into exactly that, like a little bit more of the ethics. This is, again, in partnership with the Ethics Studio and with ADAPT. But it was a big conversation we had with them was, how can we make this a little bit more transparent or kind of dive into the ethics a little bit more so people can almost develop their own compass in how to approach some of this.
Again, because it's such a large thing, especially in dealing with AI at the moment, sort of how to get the most out of the technology without, I suppose, having a Hippocratic oath almost attached to it, do no harm. So what other highlights can we expect during the festival?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to choose. I want to list out every single thing. I am very excited about the conference. I'm biased because I would and I will absolutely go to every single one of the talks, but that's on Friday 7th and Saturday 8th. So on the Friday, the keynote is Dr. Una Murphy, who wrote the AI Responsibility Toolkit for the Arts Council England and just has years of experience in this area. She's really so interesting, really compelling. And then on the Saturday, the keynote is Jose Luis de Vicente, who's one of my favorite curators. I've really followed his work for a long time, and he's worked in the area of art and technology for a long time. So he's going to be doing a talk around hydroacoustics. Super interesting individual. Outside of that, we have actually also over the opening weekend, we have the premiere of the Irish premiere of Heartbeats, which is an immersive experience that premiered at the Venice Immersive Festival in August. And so it's a piece for only 2 visitors at a time, to kind of bring people face to face with one another and have this interaction mediated by technology. So that'll be running over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the opening weekend. And then for the closing weekend, so we've kind of bookended the festival with these immersive experiences. And we have the Irish premiere of Foolish Flame by Peter Power and Leon Butler, who actually had a piece in the first year of the festival as well, Dwelling. But this is kind of, I suppose, an evolution a little bit more of their work. So this piece was commissioned by and premiered at Ars Electronica Festival in September, in their Deep Space, which is an incredible immersive space in Austria. Now, we don't quite have some of that technology in Ireland, so this will be an iteration of the work. It won't have some of the elements of interactivity, but it will still be a large-scale immersive piece, which kind of thematically looks at the relationship between cultural heritage and climate grief. And actually, one of the really interesting things in this work was they were working with a dancer and choreographer to create movement for the avatar in the piece. And in doing this, they decided to work with the Irish Traditional Music Archive's archive of Sean-Nós dancing. And they accidentally created this gestural search using the archive. So they basically have so that what they did was in creating this tool, the dancer would dance in front of the camera, and the search engine would then search the closest gesture to Sean-Nós dancing and reinterpret her movement. And so it kind of became this dialogue mediated by the artificial intelligence that they created between this contemporary dancer and this archive of Sean-Nós dancing, like incredibly beautiful.
And that was Aisling Murray, director of the Beta Festival, chatting with Niall Kitson. The festival kicks off this coming weekend, the 7th of November, and you can find out more at BetaFestival.ie.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. As always, we have some more stories online for you that we weren't able to get into the podcast, including...
Presidio inches closer to its purchase of Argo. Google brings the vibes to AI Studio, and OpenAI gets into the browser game with Atlas.
Those stories and more for you online right now at techessential.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and, of course, with RTE Radio 1 Extra. In the meantime, if you know somebody who's into tech and likes all the gossip once a week, please do share our podcast with them. Tell them to just search for Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify or YouTube. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.